Hello and welcome to the Bobby Moore Stand. My name's Gary. This is Chris, and we're going to cover some transfer news tonight. We're going to talk about the Brighton game, and it's never too early to cover transfer news. We're only a few days off the window. But first of all, let's talk about something much more serious, and that is the sad loss of Julian Lopetegui's father, who was 94. We know he's been ill for some time, and Lopetegui has been going backwards and forwards to Spain to visit him. Um, must have been a terrible thing to deal with when he was going through a bad time in his job as well. Might have even contributed to it. I don't know. But thoughts are with him. Deepest condolences um, from us, Chris.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think like these times in life, there's things more important than football. Just like when we were talking about, Antonio the other week, we didn't know what was going on with him, and yeah, condolences to Lopetegui and his family. As you said, maybe, I mean, irrespective of the fact that a lot of West Ham fans are fed up with him, and you and I, had various things to say about him and his style and management and everything
Mm.
else. At the end of the day, he's a human being, right? His father's been really ill, so we don't know how much that has had a factor in terms of how he's performed himself, as a manager, as a coach at West Ham. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's always difficult, right? I believe he's attended his father's funeral. I think he's coming back for the Brighton game, actually. So
Wow.
fair play to him for that. But yeah, there's bigger things in football sometimes. So yeah, condolences to the Lopetegui family.
Well, Nigel Khan tweeted today that we should, even though we've had problems with him, we should be big enough as a fan base to give him a cheer on Saturday. And I agree with that.
Yeah,
Actually, I agree with that.
yeah, absolutely.
No, it's a horrible thing. I've been through it. It's not a nice thing. I've been through it twice actually with my mum and dad. But anyway, let's talk about some news. And there's a lot of transfer news out there. I don't know how much of it's real because we haven't really taken much of an interest in the transfer window at the moment. But it's definitely warming up, and I think we're definitely going to have a very active window, which is unusual for us in January. We know we've got a couple of glaring holes in the squad. Striker position for a start. Central midfield, I think, needs some attention. Anywhere I've missed?
Um, well, I think they're the obvious areas, aren't they? I think up front is definitely one of the glaringly obvious areas, but equally, as you said, I think in midfield, just getting someone with some legs in there would be a good start.
Yeah.
There's noise about bringing Potsy back. I don't know whether that's a thing or not, whether we can do that. But actually, we probably miss someone like him in the middle of the park. The complete polar opposite of someone like Guido Rodriguez, right? He's actually got pace. He's got a bit about him. I think he's probably going to be more suited to the Premier League as well, in terms of
I
his.
think I think Rodriguez, since he opened his gob and told everybody about what a mistake it was coming to London, he hasn't been near the first team, which is something I like to see.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was quite impressed with Potsy in the pre-season, and I thought it was a shame that we sent him out on loan. To be honest, I assume he's still doing quite well at Portsmouth.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I've been following him actually, and yeah, all the reports have been very good. He's been very consistent. I think he's probably been arguably their most consistent player, Gal. So
Wow.
he's definitely someone who's got a future. Hopefully that
Yeah,
future stands.
yeah, and he even runs like Declan Rice as well, which is strange. But clearly, I suppose it shows who he modelled himself on. But yeah, he was. I thought it was a little bit harsh that we kept hold of Irving, to be honest, who as he was never going to get a chance of getting any game time, and he's literally got a couple of minutes here and there. But now with the reborn, the new Lopetegui principle of playing kids, which I love, by the way, and I hope that just wasn't just a bit of a show putting those kids on. I hope he meant it because they didn't let him down. Especially Skulls playing at left back. I thought he done bloody well, and that for me actually it cheered me up for a couple of days.
Mm.
Because there was the last minute equaliser, a game we arguably didn't deserve to win anyway, so it wasn't that harsh. But always, when you go ahead and a few minutes from winning, it's a bit of a downer when you don't win, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was a really good experiment, if that's what it was. It worked. It was a roaring success, and I'd like to see more of it. But no doubt this weekend, I think we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see too many of those chances appearing. I think that came as a result of Emerson being injured and being short on players, basically.
Yeah, I think so. I'd
Yeah.
like to think that this reborn Lopetegui the idea of him bringing in youth players is something that's going to happen
Yeah.
more. But I don't know. I don't necessarily see it unless, of course, we've got injuries and players suspended. I can't see it really happening, to be honest with you, mate.
Yeah.
I can't. So I think maybe that was like a default option for him.
Well, at least it's an option. At least he considers it an option, because I think when his predecessor got into those sort of positions, he didn't consider it an option. So it was good to see, especially because they didn't get a couple of minutes. Skull's got 20 minutes, so it's pretty good, really. As far as strikers go, we're being linked with the services of Charles de Ketelaere of who's he play for? AC Milan, is it?
No, he's ex-AC Milan. I think he plays for Atalanta at the moment. He's a Belgian striker. I think like 23-year-old Belgian striker.
That's right. Yeah, he was at AC Milan. Didn't work out for him, so he ended up at Atalanta.
Yeah.
And apparently we're competing with, and I mean, you've got to take this with a pinch of salt, because of course we're not competing with Aston Villa, Liverpool, and Tottenham for his signature. Cole, we're going to win that competition, aren't we?
Well, mate, come on. Villa, do they need a striker, realistically? I mean, they've got,
No.
and they've got John Duran, right? I can't see Liverpool. I don't know enough about this player to say, yeah, I'm really, this could potentially be a good signing for us, because if you look at his goal scoring record, it's not amazing. It's not. I think it's like 15 goals in about 60 odd games or something. So it's pretty underwhelming. But he's obviously a talent. Otherwise, he wouldn't be linked, and he wouldn't, with Premier League clubs, and he wouldn't be playing the likes of AC Milan and even Atalanta. So maybe he's an option. But again, I don't know enough about him. It's probably wrong for me to even comment at this time, because there's other players as well who've been linked to. There's the Brazilian lad at Corinthians, Yuri Alberto.
Yuri Alberto, is he the grandson of Carlos Alberto?
Yeah,
maybe.
Well, this one's a striker. Carlos Alberto's a right back, wasn't he? I think. But yeah, Yuri Alberto. So he's got, I think, roughly about a goal every 2 games in the Brazilian league.
Well, we do love a Brazilian, and it's got to be said, right?
I don't think that one's going to happen, though. I don't think that one's going to happen, because they're saying if it does, it might happen maybe in the summer. Yeah. And then there's another one that's been touted around quite a lot recently, which is Evan Ferguson. Obviously, the team we're playing against this weekend, and coming from Brighton, he hasn't really had a look in at Brighton for various reasons.
No.
And I like him. I mean, he was a very good player. He's been really good for them, particularly last season. I mean, I would take him in a heartbeat. I don't really know what's happened there. It's a falling out with the manager. I'm not really sure. Do you?
No, I don't. But with the rumours as well, by the way, just focusing on Brazil for a minute, with the rumours that Lucas Paqueta accepted a move to, can't remember which club it was. Flamengo in the summer. He wanted to leave and we turned him down. There are still rumours that he's going to leave in January to go to Brazil. And all those cryptic messages he was giving out after the game, like a man's coming to get me, apparently related to some sort of famous Brazilian song or something that they all sing, and he was going to return home and all that. Apparently it was a poem or a song, I don't know. But anyway, people reading between the lines and saying he's off in January, including me. Well, West Ham, this has made it even more certain, because West Ham, via their mouthpiece, Sean Whetstone, have denied it flatly, saying he's going nowhere in January, so that means he's off. And I'm just wondering, putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 17, whether there's a link between the Corinthian striker and a deal for Lucas Paqueta, even though it's a completely different club.
Don't know.
Kia Jarabshian is being mentioned as the middleman. Of Carlos Tevez and the other bloke's fame. Yeah.
Mascherano.
Yeah, he's the one who actually created that problem and cost us a bunch of money. Apparently, he's he when he failed to buy West Ham, because it was a done deal until Terry Brown sold to the Biscuit Baron. Anyway, ancient history. He's still polluting clubs around the world, and he's coming back to pollute us a little bit more. Michael Carrick has said, Michael Carrick's got a player called Lete Lath or something. Lete Lath.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a strange one. Is he a striker as well?
Yeah, well, I know he's an attacking player. I actually saw him play at the weekend. Funny enough.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, he actually looks pretty decent. I mean, again, goal scoring wise, I think he's got I think it's also like 1 in 2, 24 in 51 games I'm looking at right now. 24 goals in 51 games. He's a bit of a journeyman, because if you look at the last 5-6 years, I think he's had the last couple at Borough, but prior to that, he'd been on loan at so many different clubs. But he's still only like about 24, right? So he's not
25. 25.
Okay,
Emmanuel Lete Lath.
Yeah, so he's still a young lad, and he's obviously got some. I mean, he looked pretty good. He looked pretty explosive when I saw him. I've got to be honest with you. When I was watching the game at the I think it was the weekend. Yeah, they're playing Millwall. It was 1-1 draw. But he was probably one of the standout players. He's definitely something about him. But whether or not he could do it in the Premier League, there's always that question mark. I'll be honest, mate. I'd never even heard of him until I saw him play
Me
at
neither.
weekends.
Me neither.
And when I saw the news linked with him, I was like, oh, no way. Right. So that's a guy I just saw play. And he looked all right. He looked all right.
Well, and also the Championship is a completely different proposition to the Premiership, isn't it? I think if you look at, we're seeing that with Somerville, and it takes a time to adjust. Didn't take Bowen very long, didn't take Antonio very long. There are certain people, Cresswell as well. We've had a lot of success, but when you look at the Somerville position that he's playing, I heard this analysis of him saying that when he was playing in the Championship, he was playing for Leeds, who had pretty much, they were on the attack the whole time, and so he didn't have to defend; he just attacked, and he was the best player in the league in that position, left wing, for doing that. A lot of goals. Really was a pain in the arse for opposition defences, but he didn't have to defend, and now he does. Yeah. And he can't do that very well. He hasn't learnt this system yet. He needs to be coached. And I don't know whether, if this guy's a striker, it could just work, right? It could work. Depends what kind of guy he is. But this is in part of an article with Michael Carrick, not denying that he's interested in coming to West Ham, actually, just doing the political thing of saying we're in a good place, we have a good group, good squad, we're pushing to succeed, blah, 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 blah. So you're going to West Ham yet? Well, we've got a great team, great squad, we're looking to be successful here. You're going to West Ham then, Michael? Speculation doesn't really make a difference for us. We control a lot of things, but we can't control speculation. Yeah. So yeah, he gave all those sort of answers. I think as well, before we move on to the Brighton game, if we win this weekend, and I've got to say, honestly, I always reset my expectations, which are low anyway at the moment, but I reset my expectations at home to Brighton because I think, unlike any other team, them against us is a bloody nightmare for us. And the record in recent seasons, I was looking at on here just now, on the BBC just now, it's bloody horrendous. It's a 3:00 Saturday kickoff. That's good.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, it doesn't look very good head to head.
7 games, mate. 7 games. They are undefeated at the London Stadium. I think it's 5 draws, 2 wins. So we have a pretty crappy record when it comes to actually trying to beat them at our ground.
We've beat them once in 14 Premier League meetings. Once.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Hey, just before we talk about Brighton, I know you just mentioned that.
Yeah.
Interestingly, there's also another link that came out, I think like a day or two ago, with the Freiburg goalkeeper, Noah Atubolo. Never heard of him.
Is he 31?
No, he's young, mate. He's young. He's obviously German goalkeeper. But again, I think that kind of just goes to show that perhaps there isn't too much faith, with regards to Areola. I mean,
Areola's burnt. Areola's done. He's fallen out with Lopetegui as well, right? So, and to be honest, he was shoddy. I don't really want to see him again. He was shoddy at the beginning of the season, responsible for all sorts of goals, wasn't he? Too expensive for what he is because he's on a hell of a wage, Areola. So
there is a player in him though, Gal, right? Yes, he has slipped off this season. We all know that, and he's made a few mistakes and everything else. But I think he's regardless, I do think we need a goalkeeper. I do think we need a goalkeeper because Fabianski's certainly not getting any younger. As you said the other day, he's the oldest player in the Premier League right now.
Yeah.
It's typical that we would have a player like that at West Ham, isn't it? That we would have that record of having the oldest player. So typical.
Ahead of the game, Bowen is joint second Premier League all-time goal scorer for West Ham, joint with Paolo Di Canio and Mark Noble on 47 goals behind Antonio's 68. Right. Only 21 to go. He'll probably do it this season, won't
he? 21 to go. Yeah. I'd love it if he'd done it this season, mate. If he does, then we're talking about European football. I don't see that happening.
If we don't lose to Brighton, West Ham remain unbeaten in 3 consecutive league games for the first time this season.
Yeah.
It's quite a stat, isn't it? We've amassed 10 points from our past 5 home games.
Yeah, look, that's the thing. I mean, if we beat Brighton at the weekend, then suddenly you're talking actually about a decent points accumulation from the last 3 games. You can't be disappointed with that. I wouldn't be. It'd be very good turnaround, irrespective of how we got those points. And I know people, kind of go on about how we've performed. Personally, I think we've actually been pretty decent. I do. Certainly against Bournemouth, I think we were decent. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I imagine this was against Iraola, but Julian Lopetegui's only previous competitive game as a manager against Brighton was a 6-0 defeat against when he was in charge of Wolves.
Say that again, Gal. I didn't quite catch up.
Julian Lopetegui's only previous experience managing against Brighton was a 6-0 defeat when he managed Wolves. 6-0.
I don't want to know that. I do
Yeah.
not want to know that.
That was at the end of the season because, he left. Well, he was kicking off because he wanted to have a load of money to spend.
Yeah.
Apparently, at the end of that season, he really took his foot off the gas. And they got thumped quite a few times after not getting thumped at all throughout the
Yeah.
whole season.
I remember
Arsenal
that.
stuffed them as well. Herzler is the manager. His side are one of just 3 alongside Chelsea and Liverpool to have scored in all of their away league matches this season.
Yeah, they're a good team, Brighton. They are a good team. I think they've not had a particularly good month. I'm talking about the month of November. So if you look at the last 5 games, they've only accumulated 5 points.
Yeah.
And I think they're on a sort of a winless run of the last 4 games. So lost to Palace, drew with Leicester away, lost to Fulham away, drew with Southampton away, mate. 1-1, right?
Yeah.
That's a fucking awful result. Beat Bournemouth away. So yeah, and that was right at the beginning of the month. So yeah, if you look at the last 4 games, they're on a bit of a crappy spell right now. So it's important for them to turn it around, but equally, important for us to make sure that we can maintain our unbeaten run.
We need consistency, right? We've got to prove that this sort of shit ain't a flash in the pan.
Yeah, totally.
Because we were moderately happy with what we saw the other night. A lot of people weren't. But at the same time, you're not going to read too much into a single performance because we've learnt our lesson at Newcastle a couple of weeks ago. We were all elated after that, and then it was service, normal service resumed. Got fucking stuffed repeatedly, didn't we? So the Seagulls could lose consecutive league games for the first time, 2 consecutive league games for the first time since the appointment of Fabien Herzler.
Yeah.
And finally, someone the other night told me they'd lost 4 in a row. No, they ain't. They've drawn 2, lost 2.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they're not quite that bad, but they're a decent team. They're still like 8th, 9th in the league, and they go. So they're still in a decent position. And I think if you take into account, last 4 or 5 games, if they would have maintained that level of consistency that they started since the beginning of the season, they'd be right up there challenging for you. I mean, they still are, I suppose.
Oh, completely. I mean, they're in 9th. We're on 19 points. They're on 24. If we beat them, which is at best rare because it's such a rare thing, right? It's if it happens, I'll be delighted. But that'd take us up to 22 points, and then we've got Southampton away on Boxing Day, could take us up to 25. At the moment, the team in 6th place have got 25 points. Now I know there are going to be some wins and whatever dotted around in there, but it's very likely, no matter what the results above us, that if we win both of those games, we'll end up in the top 10.
Yeah.
After Boxing Day. Yeah,
no, it's true. It's absolutely true. I think, we win 2 on the bounce, we'll be in the top 10, I would imagine. And then suddenly, I'm not going to get ahead of let's not get ahead of ourselves now.
We'll all get excited and be predicting a win at home to Liverpool and stuff, won't we? It'd be brilliant. And
we're going to be slipping back down again. But no, there's no reason why. I mean, if we won the next 2 games, we'd be in the top 10 and we'd be elated with that. But yeah, as you say, we've got Liverpool and Man City after that. So then it kind of maybe the realization of what we really are, what we're really about is going to hit us then. But we take it game by game as we always do, right? We assess West Ham game on a game by game basis. And that starts again, this Saturday against Brighton. And I must admit, I'm a little bit worried about this one, irrespective of, sort of history and, our past sort of track record with them. I know it's not great, but they are a good team. They've got some good players.
They are. Yeah.
I mean, is there anyone in particular that you're concerned about in the Brighton team?
No, all of them. I think the way they play is ill suited to the way we play, because they're really, we were discussing it earlier. They're very quick. They're very, very quick in transition. They're fast. They will, get from their end to our end very, very quickly. And if we push all the way up the pitch and commit players to our dodgiest press in the league, most uneven, unbalanced press that anyone's ever done. If we do that and we leave loads of players stranded up the pitch, especially defenders, they will pick us apart, and they're pretty clinical. So that's what worries me, really. They are a nightmare for us. They're a modern nightmare. They are the Romelu Lukaku of football teams. So West Ham.
Well, the Callum Wilson of football teams for West Ham.
Callum Wilson of football teams,
Yeah, no, they are a bogey team, right? I mean, for me, if I look at their team, I'm with you on this one. I'm concerned about their team in general, right? I think they've got very, very good. They've got good first 11. But it's their, like, I always say it most weeks. I think their front 3, 4 always kind of concerns me. Every team we play against, always the front 3 or 4 because they can hurt us. But Mitoma's a good player, mate. You know, he comes in on the left hand side. Japanese, I know a lot about him, and he's a very, very good player, a talented player. I don't think he's been maybe as effective as he was the last season or the season before that. Still
Yeah,
got 3 goals this season, right? Still got 3 goals this season. The one also I think that potentially could cause us problems is that João Pedro up front. He's good. You know, he's got kind of that versatility to kind of play in lots of different areas and across that front line. So he
yeah,
does
yeah,
run off the left, the right, but he typically plays up front for them. But he's quick, which is something we don't like. He has ability to hold the ball up, bring the other players into play. You know, gets himself into little pockets. I think he's definitely, for me, he's the danger man. And I think in addition to him, probably, I'm trying to think of his name now, the lad that they signed from Leeds United. Is it Jorginho Rutter? Rutter, I think. Yeah, I think
right.
it's a French guy. So he plays. I think he plays right wing, but he comes in on his left foot. So he's a left-footed player. He's a very dangerous player as well. I think he's banged in about 4 goals for them this season. I'm sure. I think he did 4 goals. He scored a few goals for them this season, but also he's a chance creator. You know, he gets assists, so he can play in on the he can play on the left, coming cutting in onto his left foot. Sorry,
Yeah,
on the right, cutting in on his left foot. He can also play in the 10. He can play also across that front line, and again, he's also got pace. So I think it's that thing that we worry about every week. It's always pace, particularly on the flanks, because we know that's the area we always typically get exposed. But that striker in João Pedro for me he's going to be a bit of a danger man. I'm just hoping because he has been pretty decent, irrespective of their form as a team recently. He's still been pretty good. So we need to keep our eyes on him. We really do.
yeah. I just worry whenever we play a team like this that have got such a mobile front line.
Mm,
Pace does us every time,
yeah.
and I've just got I've still really I'm going to lay off Lopetegui obviously for the time being, but it's Lopetegui's style of football. I do think it's suited more to another era than what we're seeing right now, and I'm yet to be convinced otherwise on that. And when we really get tested is at home against a decent side. It's funny that, isn't it? We seem to do pretty well on the road. Whether that's less pressure at away games, I don't know.
Mm,
But we know very well when it's not going well at home, the atmosphere in those stadiums bloody diabolical.
yeah.
So perhaps they do feel the pressure more at home. I don't know, or perhaps they play in a slightly different way at home. Maybe they're more aggressive because they're at home.
Mm,
But either way, whatever it is, we've only really done well against crap at home, haven't we? I mean, and Man United were crap at the time, and we were lucky to get away with that one anyway.
yeah.
Ipswich
Ipswich.
were
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, our home form has not been the best, has it?
It hasn't been, but equally, you could say Brighton's away form for the last 5, 6 weeks hasn't been the greatest either. They
No.
got a win against Bournemouth at the start of November, but since then they've got not really much on the road. So, like I say, it might be a good time to play them, Gal. It might be.
So what's your team then, Chris?
Who we got out? So the only player we got out is what's Carlos Soler because he's
And Antonio.
Antonio. Tadibo is a doubt, right? He's got a groin problem, isn't he? So I don't know what the
Mm.
situation is with him, whether or not he'll be available, but I would assume that he's not going to play. Maybe because of the falling out with Lopetegui. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think he has actually genuinely got a bit of a knock, groin, whatever it is, he's injured. So I'd imagine it'd be Fabianski in goal again. I guess Emerson being back, he's going to slot back in at left back, and he's surely so you're going to have Wan-Bissaka back on the right, and I suppose you're going to have Mavropanos, Kilman in the middle, so you play a flat back four. Midfield, I would
Oh,
have.
and we're saying that because Tadibo is almost definitely out. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, based on what I've heard, I think he's got a groin
A
problem.
tight groin.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd imagine. Why would you? Well, why would you risk it? I don't know. It depends how bad it is, right? But I reckon they'll probably stick with Mavropanos. So there's a potential worry of another bloody mistake happening again against Brighton.
Yeah,
Hope
yeah.
that's not the case. But yeah, middle of the park, I would imagine it's going to be a combination of Alvarez, Souček, Paqueta. How they're going to do that, I don't know. Is it going to be Alvarez sitting on his own, or is he going to have a double pivot of Alvarez and Souček, or Alvarez and Paqueta and Souček playing further advance and alternating? I don't know.
I think there's only three players that we can pick in midfield at the moment because of Soler. I think we're going to miss Soler for a start. I think he knitted everything together the
Yeah.
other day, and he's slowly emerging. It reminds me of the kind of slightly more of a flair player, but he reminds me of the water carrier, the Jeff Pike, the unsung hero, the one that quietly goes about his job. He wins pretty much every second ball, which is why he gets booked quite often. He's quick on the scene, you know. He reads things. He can pass. He can carry. There's so much that he can do, and he does it very quietly, so you don't notice him. You look at the stats; actually looks pretty impressive. So we're going to miss him because when he went off, we were vulnerable.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, and I think the only way to play with Alvarez is without a partner. He can't cope with a partner. We saw that last year. He done his best stuff when he was on his own in front of the back
He
four.
doesn't need a partner, Gal. He
No,
doesn't need one. That's the whole
let
point.
let him. That's your job. Sit there and guard that defence. You know, when the two wing backs fly at the pitch, you sit. You become one of three. Yeah, you split the two centre halves. I know he didn't have a good time of doing that against Chelsea, but it shouldn't be beyond his wit, should it? The only time it becomes confusing for him, I think, is when you add other pieces around him that confuse him. I don't think he's the brightest footballer, I've got to be honest. The most agile footballer, the most quick-brained footballer. He's like a meat and potatoes kind of guy in a different way to what Souček is, right? But Souček actually showed a few bits of decent flair the other night and showed that he could pass the ball. And, you know, why does he do that every now and then? He looked fucking
Weird,
I
isn't it?
didn't know he could
It's
do
so
that.
weird.
And then next game, it's normal services routine. It's old Souček again. Fucking hell, he's passing 6 yards to the right of someone out of play.
Which is mental, right? Because I mean, when he was playing against Bournemouth, he was doing like he was back heeling it. He was like, what's going on here? He's got that in his locker, but you know, that's a one-off, mate. That doesn't happen too frequently. Let's be honest. You know, it doesn't.
Yeah.
His passing is not his strength. Not his strength at all.
No,
His awareness of what was going on around him against Bournemouth was very good.
It was.
Yeah.
I would definitely play for the midfield. So I would leave Alvarez on his own at about and I would probably play Paqueta and Souček sort of staggered with one of them slightly further forward. You know, you depending what we do, switching it around, let them find some space. You know, and dropping back and covering each other. I think that would be a good simple system to play with Kudus on the left and Bowen on the right. And Fulkrug for me, if he's fit, he's got to start.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. I think we need to have. I think with regards to what we've got available at the moment, he has to start up front.
Yeah,
he's got to. The only way he's going to get this match fitness is by playing, right? Not just by making 5-10 minute substitute appearances. I know he had a bit more than that, didn't he, against Bournemouth? But no, he needs to start, and perhaps this is the ideal type of game for him to start. Playing at home, fans will be behind him, irrespective of his weird interview that he had this week. Although I don't really take too much into that. But yeah, no, I'd do the same. I would play Kudus on the left, even though I know that's not his favoured position, but I would play him there because I think he was effective there against Bournemouth. I still don't know.
It was a bad mistake to take him off.
Yeah.
Bad mistake.
Yeah, and so I would play him there. I'll play Bowen on the right and play Fulkrug up front, and a combination of where it be Souček playing in behind, Paqueta playing in behind. Yeah, that's exactly what I would do. I think that would be the best possibility we could have.
And West Ham have put 100 million price tag on Kudus.
Yeah, we ain't getting that from now, let's be honest.
Well, I don't know. If you watch last year's showreel, and I think you might give him 100 million. I think he was worth every penny of 100 million at times last year, probably more.
Mate, I remember having conversations with you about this a while ago. We were saying, he's a 150 million pound player, let alone a 100 million pound player. Well, but the reality is he's not been at that level this season. And who actually has that kind of money?
He hasn't, Chris, but it's like Somerville playing for Leeds. If you transplant him into a Liverpool, he's going to spend most of his time down the attacking end of the pitch because they've got very good defenders. Yes, he's going to have to do some defensive duties, but nothing like as often as he's going to be running at opposition defences, causing trouble. Right? Yeah. So I think personally, football people must know how good that guy is, and there must be a clamour for his signature. I'm sure of it. I'm sure Arsenal wants him. Liverpool want him. There's probably several others that want him as well. Newcastle have been touted. They won't be able to afford him, will they?
Yeah, if West Ham are saying they want 100 million for him, right? If they're saying that he's for sale and he's available for 100 million, it means it will probably likely take 85 million for him. That's the truth, right?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Maybe they're just trying to make sure they get their 80 or 85 or whatever it is. Yeah. And also, I think Alvarez... in hindsight, I thought he did all right the other night. He didn't really. It wasn't a great performance by Alvarez the other night.
First half, he was all right, mate. I think second half,
I think everyone was all right first half. But the trouble is, the difficulty when you're playing in a position like that, where you're supposed to be, the sort of the central defensive midfielder holding it all together and keeping the shape and keeping the opposition team out. He does revert to type too often and ends up charging around, slamming into people. Doesn't really seem to give it too much thought. So I understand why every time he gets booked, Lopetegui just swipes him off straight away because he don't trust him.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that's just because he's not very bright, like I said earlier, or if he's just he just don't care. His heart's not in it. I don't know. But I know he wanted to go to Man United. When I think now's his chance. I think they get an offer for him. He's off. I think they get an offer for Fulkrug. Obviously, he's off. You know, Fulkrug has again written or there's an article that's been well or badly translated, where he's come out with some very odd things about. Oh yeah, I can't. It's like he was doing us a favour coming here. The way I read it, it's like, oh yeah, I was prepared to come to West Ham, even though I accepted they're not in Europe this year or next year. Tough challenge. Blah 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 blah. Then he spoke about his injury. Oh yeah, it was a groin injury and it kept coming back. It wouldn't go away. I've had this before. It lasted 6 weeks last time. It's like, why didn't we check his injury history? How often is he out?
I said this at the start of the season. That was the one thing I was worried about. I know that he's been okay for the last few years. But prior to that, he had a bit of a torrid injury record.
Yeah, he did. His knee.
But yeah, that interview though, I don't know how much we should really kind of take into that, because I think it can be misinterpreted when you translate it, for starters, but also in terms of what he's actually saying. Okay, so I think he actually said, in terms of how it's translated, it's been a nightmare. Well, it has been a bloody nightmare, because he's been injured for the duration of pretty much how long he's been with West Ham. And I think with regards to the other things he said around European football, okay, he knew that he wasn't going to get European football this year. Well, yeah, okay. And then Tim Steiten I believe he was in contact with Steiten about this.
Yeah.
But the only thing that kind of bugged me a little bit about that interview, and I don't want to, again, take too much into this, but he did say no European football this season, but also probably no European football next season. Now, look, I know where we are in the league right now, and let's be honest, could we really see ourselves in Europe next year? Probably not. But if you're a player, you don't want to be coming out saying that shit, right? Surely you're going to be saying we've got to be gunning for Europe next season, because going back to our point, Gal, 2-3 wins on the bounce, we're back in the top 10. You don't know, right? It's such a tight league, it can change.
Honestly, it's so surprising, Chris. It's so surprising. I mean, you've only got to have a look at this league table, right? Let's see if I can share it. Let's see if I can share it on this on this tool. Hang on. But it is amazing to see. It's amazing to see. Yeah, there we go. It's amazing to see where we are at the moment in terms of the number of points from 14th, which is us, on 19, all the way up to, it's only 6 points between us and 6th place. Yeah. That is so tightly packed together. It's ridiculous.
It is. It's really tight. And all it takes is a couple of wins, and suddenly you can be talking about having a potentially different type of season, right? Yeah. So I think it's crucial. So when you look at, obviously, the games that we've got coming up, I want to kind of put, the likes of Man City, Liverpool to one side, for instance. But if we can get maximum points at our next two games.
No, we're beating City. I want to go for City this time. I want to break that voodoo.
Let's not go too far ahead of ourselves here. But I think the next two games, right, you would expect to get, for me, I would expect to get a minimum of 4 points out of
6 points out of these, 4 points out of next two, 10 points. I'll accept nothing less.
Mate. I think that would be amazing. Yeah. But I think, again, going back to my point, if we can get a decent amount of points by the end of the year, then we can be looking into 2025 thinking, do you know what? We've got a goal to aim for here. We've got something to aim for. But what we don't want to do is lose to Brighton, lose to fucking Southampton, get nothing. I don't know. Let's say we get 3 points out of the next 4 games or something like that. Then that's no good, because we're going to be looking at the bottom half of the table. But it can make such a difference these next few games in terms of our thought process and our mentality going into 2025 and what actually is possible for West Ham, because it can all change. It can change.
Yeah, it can. It can. I agree with you. The only thing that the only time we've let ourselves down was against Leicester. I'm talking about against average sides, crap sides. And that was really because it was Leicester. They've still got some good players, Jamie Vardy, etc. And that's what separates the wheat from the chaff down the bottom. That is why we're doing all right, because against those crappy sides, man for man, we're far better. We've got the big stars, right? Yeah. And that's what gives you a little leg up sometimes, because a lot of these sides, they just ain't got them. Southampton, Ipswich ain't got them.
But it is the interesting thing, right? You talk about how tight the league is. Okay. Yeah. Classic example, right? So you've got Brighton that have had a really good season up until November. Obviously, they've slipped off a little bit, as we've already discussed.
Yeah.
You look at the teams they've lost to in the last month. They lost 3-1 to Palace.
Yeah.
They've drawn 2-2 to Leicester, the team you just mentioned just now. Not a great team, but they drew 2-2 to Leicester. they've lost to Fulham. Fulham a decent team. All right,
They're
so
decent,
that's no
yeah.
bad. Yeah, so they lost 3-1 away to Fulham. They drew with Southampton and they beat Bournemouth, right?
Right,
So
right.
what does that tell you? I mean, it just goes to show fine margins between a lot of these teams. There really are. And anyone can seem to beat anyone on their day. That's how it really has been proven this season. So look, I know we can only think about West Ham because we see them week in, week out. We know how well we've been performing or how badly we've been performing.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I think if somehow, and I know we're clinging to that thread of hope that Lopetegui can suddenly start getting a tune out of this team on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
If he does that, then maybe we can be looking at a positive season. But we take it game by game. I don't want to get too far into myself, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying. But I've just noticed something. There's a mirror image behind you showing even more bloody signed shirts. Or is that? Am I looking at a reflection of those ones on the wall?
You
Yeah, I am.
are.
Yeah.
No. I've got Caduce. I've got my European one. I've got Bowen beyond my idea. I've got Kilman down there and Sufal as well, but I don't put them on my wall yet. I don't ask me why I've got Sufal, mate. But no. But Kilman.
That'd be a collector's piece soon. Oh well, I'll tell you what, right? I mean, for what we paid for him, he came in the other night, done a decent job at his age. When we'd all written him off, every now and then he comes back and he does a half decent job, right? You got to have respect for the guy. Right?
Yeah, you got to have respect for his finishing ability, right? As well. I mean, it's unbelievable, wasn't it? Some of those shots he had on Monday,
and a member of our cup-winning team as well. So what can you say?
Yeah, look, come on. At the end of the day, I think whatever happens with Sufal, if he leaves at the end of the season, whatever, I think every West Ham fan will look back and say he was a good signing for West Ham. Look at the money we paid for him.
Of course he was. He kept it real. Exactly. He kept it real. You remember that story of him getting the bus to?
I do. Yeah, to the training grounds. Yeah. He was waiting outside for bus stop, wasn't he, to go home.
Yeah, he was. That was brilliant. So so let's do our predictions and then finish. So what do you reckon?
Do you know, right? I'm changing my tune a bit now, Gal. I am. I'm thinking.
You're reverting to type.
Yeah, I am. I'm going back because I've been bloody negative the last few games, and that may actually have worked in our favour because we've actually been getting points when I say we're going to lose, right? But so maybe I should say we're going to lose. But no, I can't keep doing that every week. I know this is a massive ask and a stretch and highly unrealistic, but hear me out. I'm thinking Lopetegui's had a tough week, all right? What with his father, I think the players will be up for this one. They're back at home. I think they're going to need to get a result out of this. I think they want to get that kind of consistency going again, right? They need to get again. They need it, right? I'm going 3-1 West Ham, Gal. I'm going all out. 3-1 West Ham.
You're back, Chris. Back bloody time.
I'm calling it, mate. I'm calling it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to agree with Ray Parlour, who it's strange, that, isn't it? He's going for a West Ham 2-1 home win. I'm going to predict we're winning as well. And it's Brighton, for fuck's sake. What am I doing? What are we doing? But what is Ray Parlour doing? But it's very strange.
And Paul Merson as well, by the way. Paul Merson predicted it.
Bloody hell, we're doomed. We're doomed. Yeah. But you know, Ray Parlour used to live. He grew up in my sister's old house in Romford. Yeah. She was stripping the paper one day in one of the rooms, and Ray Parlour had written all his sort of graffiti over the wall or something like that.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah, when he lived there, his dad had built a garden shed out of old doors.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, it had more than one entrance, Chris.
Yeah. Right. Let's go 3-1 West Ham. Yeah. Do you know what? I don't care what anyone says. Yes, I know it's going to be highly unlikely, but
it's coming home, Chris. It's coming home.
It's coming home. Yeah.
We're going back into Europe. Let's not get carried away. Yeah. Anyway, look, we're done. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel. I nearly said it again. The Bobby Moore Stand, and hit the bell notification icon so you're informed of all future shows. Once again today, I forgot to do the intro, but I will do the outro because I'm bloody good at that, and I must automate it or something, right? I can't keep forgetting to do the intro, idiot. But yeah, that's me. But until next time, see you soon. Come on, your wines.